I'm going to give you a little tour of my Singer 3-1 heavy-duty sewing machine. This is about the fourth model, or perhaps the third model that Singer ever made. This is the Singer 3-1. It's also called the Singer number 3 Standard. I'm going to show you the threading pattern for the top thread. It goes from the spool over here to the tension wire. Then it goes from there. In this case, I have a iron cup or boat in place, so it goes through a hole in that, but not all the way down to the bottom of it. Then it goes over here to the lower end of the wire staple. Then it goes up to the pickup lever. Then it goes back down through the same staple again. Then it goes all the way down. Let me see if I can show you that. Then it goes all the way down and goes through a hole and a needle clamp. And then through the needle from left to right. The top tension for the thread is obtained by twisting this tension wing here towards the operator, around and around, or however many times is required to cause friction on the thread. The manual says to tighten it until you almost break the thread, and that's probably pretty close to accurate. You can see some of this mechanism here. By the way, to set the needle in this machine, it gives you a couple guide bars to use. There is let's see if I can show you what that looks like. There is a little notch in the needle bar, and you drop the needle bar to where that notch is flush level with the top of the plate. You can see the mark on the needle bar. It's just above the faceplate. When it's set to that position, the needle itself, if it's the right size needle, the eye of the needle will be right above the throat plates, just at the top edge of the throat plates. And I'm using 29 by 1 needles in this machine. The original needle was a 3 by 1 or a 3 by 2 or 3 by 3. And they are not made anymore, but they're very close in the same size as a 29 by 1 by 2 by 3 by 4. So those needles are working just fine in this machine. The stitch length on this machine is controlled by these two brass discs located down here underneath the head of the machine. You loosen them up a little bit, and then you turn both of these discs inwards or tighten up on them, and it lengthens the stitch. You loosen up on them and it loosens the stitch. Once you get it just the way you like it, then you tighten these two brass nuts together until they will not move, and you've basically locked in the stitch length. I'm going to show you the friction plate, which is also used in the feeding mechanism. If the stitch gets inconsistent, stitch length is inconsistent, then you want to tighten up. And where I'm showing you is the actual screw, but it's inside the head, underneath the face, or underneath the body. But if you look, I think you can see the wood in there. Well, that's a wood friction block. Basically, the screw that's inside this hole tightens down on it and presses it against the feed wheel. And there you can see the feed wheel. What all of that is. And there's a spring involved in this thread length adjustment. Keeps pressure on it. Here's a view of the boat shuttle. It's got a bobbin inside of it. And on the side of the boat shuttle, which is probably not real easy to see, there's a bunch of holes, and then there's a slot, and the thread comes off of the bobbin and through the holes in a certain pattern, which is documented in the manual. And the way you adjust the tension on this bobbin and shuttle is the number of holes that you pass the thread through, in and out, in and out, in and out. So, and there's also, in this case, I had to rework some parts of this shuttle, and there is a spring in there that holds the bobbin in place, and the spring can be changed out, and a tighter spring or a more compression spring can also change the tension on the bobbin. Okay, I'm going to show you the bobbins here. The machine came with one bobbin, which is the one in the front. I believe it's an original, but I'm not 100% sure. I made 3 more bobbins, and I'm using one of them inside the shuttle right now. The other bobbins were made with standard steel rod and actual toy train brass wheels. These are just slightly larger than HO train sets, in case anyone has HO train sets or knows about them. They're approximately just under 1/2 inch in diameter, the brass is, and I turned them so they were press fitted onto the axles. Then I had to sharpen the points on the ends. It works real well. Okay, I'm going to show you some sewing here. This is 2 pieces of denim. Lower the presser foot. And wheel starts turning towards you, pretty much like all slingers, I believe. Yeah, take a look at it. Oops. Okay, so you can probably not see real well, but there's the red stitch, and there is no green showing through there. Green is the bobbin thread. This is the other side, and there's the green stitch with no reds showing through. So I did another stitch earlier. So this is pretty well balanced. I've already tweaked the tension both top and bottom. Okay. Okay, I thought I would show you the other side of the machine, the wheels and the gears, while I do a little sewing here. There you go. Makes quite a bit of noise, doesn't it? Gears, they'll do that for you. Okay, one last thing I wanted to show you is how you wind bobbins on this machine. You cannot disconnect the drive wheel from the head assembly, so the needle is going to move up and down when you wind bobbins. You have to provide your own special belt, and there's no groove in this big wheel here, so this is a urethane drive belt that I use on all the treadles. Anyway, it fits on here and it works real well. So basically you just take a shuttle, or a bobbin, and you pinch the thread in the end of between the bobbin and the winder, and take the thread and you hold it out here and you crank, and you probably want to take the shuttle out, at least I do, and so it doesn't mangle any thread, and wind the bobbin, and that's all there is to it. And when you're done, take it off.